Hello everyone, it's Malia, and to wrap up my mini Hawaii series, today I decided I want to show you all how I planned my entire trip on Notion. I talk a lot about Notion in my videos, and I've actually made a Notion video before, but if you don't know what it is, Notion is basically an online workspace that you can use to plan literally your entire life. And I use it almost every single day. I have a track on there. I write down what I eat, what shows or books or movies I'm watching. I set goals there, and it basically makes me feel like my life is organized, even though in reality it is a mess. But I won't go too much about the ins and outs of Notion. If you want to check out my Notion video that I made a few months ago, go ahead and find it in my channel. That's more of a detailed walkthrough of all of the pages that I've created on Notion. But today I'm just going to show you how I used it specifically for traveling. I ultimately decided that I wanted to use Notion to plan out my Hawaii trip because in 2019, which was my last trip to Japan, Daniel and I basically planned our entire trip on Google Docs, and it was not fun. It did the job, but it was not organized or aesthetic, or it just was not it. So I figured since I use Notion for pretty much everything else, why not use it for traveling? And before we start, I am not sponsored by Notion, but Notion, if you're watching this, hit me up. But to use it, it is completely free, but they do also have a subscription plan for about $5 a month, which I'm on, but it really only gives you a few extra perks, so you can honestly get away with just the free plan. So it's perfect for students or people who just want to get their life together like me. Okay, and without further ado, here is my Notion travel page. Okay, so here is my homepage. Won't go over this too much, but it's very cute in my opinion. So if we scroll down, we'll make it to all my fun extra pages where I like to keep track of things like finances, shows, etc. And here you can see I recently added my travel page. So if we click into that, we enter the travel section. So here is where all my trips will live in their own separate pages. As you can see here, I already have a table, love tables by the way, where each line is its own separate trip or destination. And for each trip, I can include its start and end date, and it'll actually calculate the number of days, which is cool. And then from there, I can assign it to a certain status, such as upcoming, complete, or in progress. So if I want to go into more specifics, we can then click into each trip's name and open it up to the trip's page, and that is where all the fun is. So within each destinations page, I pretty much have all the details for my trip. Since this was Hawaii, of course, I added a GIF at the top, and it had to be Lilo and Stitch. So this first section is basically a lot of logistics and specific details. So as you can see, the first section is any lists. I got these two lists from Notion. Oh, and quick note, the main template that I found this on was in the Notions template tab that they provided, and that's what I worked off of, but then I tweaked it myself from there. So basically I didn't make these lists, but we have a pre-trip checklist and also a packing list. As you can see, I didn't really use them just because I didn't feel the need to, but these could definitely be helpful to anyone who does like working off lists. So for now, I just decided to keep them there just in case, and I can always change it if I need to. Then I have a resources section where I put any lists or itineraries that I got from friends. This is really helpful so that I have all the links in one place and I don't have to remember who sent what and where to find it. And it also really helped when I was building out the itinerary. And then after that are just any trip notes that I needed to jot down. So I did put a COVID test section because for Hawaii that was required. So it's still good to have for now because if you don't know, COVID is still out there. And also fair reminder, please be safe and responsible when you do travel. Right after that, I put down my flight, hotel, and car rental information, which is very helpful to have all in one place. And then lastly, I added a map. Not that I really used it, but I think it just looks nice and it gave this page more of a travel feel. If anything, you know, we're all about the aesthetics, so why not? And then on the side here are any post-trip notes. So I added these after the trip, and a lot of it are just links to videos I made. I'll probably add a link for this one after I post it. And then I also added my own resources that I created, like my own Yelp food list, which I can share to others who might be going to Hawaii soon. Okay, so after all the logistics is my full itinerary. Once again, we have another table because who doesn't love tables? And each line is its own day, as you can see here. So we split it up by the day, date, where we'll be staying. So we were only at one hotel for this trip, but this could be useful in the future when I have a trip where I may have to move between different accommodations, like when I was in Japan. And then in the next column, I can select what transportation I'll need for that day. In our case, we actually didn't have a car for the whole week, so you can see that some days we had to plan to take a bus or an Uber if we couldn't walk. And then the last column is the actual itinerary for the day. I didn't want to be too specific and plan by each hour. This was more of a chill trip, so what we did was just plan things by morning, afternoon, and evening. And we found that this worked best for us because a lot of times our plans just change, so it was easier to just adjust things that way. And then once the day ended, I just made final edits so that it reflected exactly what we did for that day. And then after the itinerary is the budget section, everyone's favorite part. So in the table, each row had a different category. So you can see for mine, we had flights, food and drink, transportation and lodging, shopping specifically for designer, and then gifts and experiences. So I did set a budget for each category and what I actually spent in the next column. And the way I calculated everything was from a separate budget worksheet that I had for myself and also kept track in my notes app. But after I calculated everything on the side, I just inputted the final sum here on Notion. You can also have each column summed up like at the bottom here, and I was actually under budget, which is great. I really surprised myself there. And then the last two columns are just the type of expenses and any notes. So this was really nice to have, but to be honest, I wasn't actively using it during the trip because once I'm traveling and on vacation, I have no boundaries or self-control and just spend as much as I want to. But it's still good to look back and reflect and see exactly what I did end up spending on. In the end, it's still good to visually see everything. Up next, we have a food list because I'm a huge foodie. So whether I saw it on Yelp or heard it from friends, if there are any food spots that caught my eye, I would just jot it down here so I wouldn't forget. And then I sorted it by the type of spot, so you can see there's like breakfast, snacks, lunch, dinner, etc. I labeled whether I wanted to for sure visit that spot or if it was just a maybe if we could fit it in. This really helped when planning our itinerary because it allowed us to prioritize spots we really wanted to hit on our trip. And then once we visited a spot to keep track, I just checkmarked it and I also rated it out of 5. And then after that, I also just added the addresses and any notes. It's usually just what I ordered or any time or waitlist info. This was a very useful table to have because sometimes we didn't really plan our itinerary to the T. We would have just night and then dinner but not have an actual spot. So if that was the case, it was easy to just pop into Notion, look at our list, and decide from there. And then right below that, this isn't as detailed, but it's pretty much the same thing as the food list, just for experiences. You can see there are a lot of hikes or beaches and gardens, and this is the same concept. I sorted it into the type of experience it was, if we wanted to for sure visit, if we actually visited, and any notes. It's not as filled up because food is definitely more of my priority, but it also was because Hawaii is just a lot more chill. You kind of just go with the flow for the day, so this might be more useful depending on the types of place you visit. And then the last section is my photo section. Here I just plugged in any favorite photos that I had from the trip just for the memes, so it's nice to have here at the bottom just to summarize everything. And that's pretty much the layout of the trips page. What's great about it too is that it can also be collaborative. So Daniel definitely wanted to help with the planning process, so it wasn't all on me. But at the top right of the corner here, you can see that there is an option to share this page. So I shared it with Daniel's email and gave him editing access, so he was able to add to the itinerary or food list while we were planning. And I believe you don't need to have a Notion account for that. Not that you shouldn't, you should still get a Notion account. But if you have any friends who don't want to sign up for some reason, they can still go on your page and contribute to it as a guest. And then the last few things I wanted to show is if we head back into the main travel page, I created a next trip row, which is basically a blank template. So all I have to do is duplicate it for when I have a new trip planned. So for example, I actually have a Seattle trip in September. So I'll go ahead and duplicate this trip first, and then open it, rename, and customize it, and from there I can work off this page. And then below my trips table, I also wanted to put a little planning board for my travels as a whole. As you can see, they're split into different sections. We have places I want to visit, trips I currently planned, and trips that are complete. It's still very small because I haven't had a chance to travel as much as I wanted to, so hopefully this will change and grow in the future. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Very straightforward. I hope this video helped give you a little inspiration on how to spice up your travel itineraries. Once again, I love Notion. I will always advocate for this platform. So if you want to learn more or see a more in-depth walkthrough of Notion, go ahead and check out my video on my channel. Also, I will be providing a template this time, so if you want a copy of my travel pages, I'll be linking it in the description below. And yeah, that's pretty much the video. And this also wraps up my Hawaii mini-series, which makes me sad because I miss Hawaii, but I don't know what other videos I can make. Hopefully I'll get to travel soon and have a new destination series, but who knows when that will be. Oh, it will be Seattle, so catch me in Seattle in September. But if you did like this video, just make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and the bell button. Until then, see you soon. Bye. Oh, thank God I'm done.